This video is made possible with the support of my patrons and super thanks donors. Click the link to my Patreon in the description or the super thanks button underneath the video to help support my work. Thank you so much, and now on to the video. In both Malcolm in the Middle and Everybody Hates Chris, there's an episode where the school bully is taken down, and rather than being framed as a good thing, it's actually depicted as a bad thing. The schools are thrown into complete chaos, the new bully is worse than the old one, and the entire school food chain goes topsy-turvy. In turn, both bullies must bully again in order to bring harmony back to the playground. Wait, what? So I talk a lot about bullying on my channel because it's something that's really close to my heart and has affected me for the majority of my life. And because of that, I'm specifically sensitive to depictions of bullying in the media. And generally speaking, most depictions of bullying and bully victims tend to be pretty bad. The themes I see surrounding media that has bullying and bully victims as part of their storylines usually rehash the same old negative themes and tropes. Firstly, that bully victims are petty and vengeful, and that they should just get over whatever happened to them because harping on it for so long makes you even more of a loser.
And thanks for the apology.
What apology?
For all the crappy stuff you did to me in high school.
Well, geez, you're still harping on that? What a puss.
And it's like, of course, bullying makes you angry and makes you hold a grudge. When someone is actively trying to make your life miserable for years on end simply because they deem you weird, that's going to get to you. Secondly, bullying is used as a motivation for a lot of lazy villain backstories. Bully victims get turned into bullies themselves because obviously victims are just as vindictive as their bullies. Sometimes we're made to sympathize with the bully, and then they're redeemed as villains because they're hurting too. For example, in Bridget Terabithia, the school bully is being abused at home, which is why she acts out and is mean to others in school, and it's up to the main characters to kill her with kindness, and so she stops bullying and the school is better off because of it. Snape is another bully victim turned bully, but unlike in Bridget Terabithia, the narrative justifies his mistreatment and downright abuse to his students because he's doing it in the name of love, and he's hurting too, don't you know? Even in The Big Bang Theory, the nerdy guys get shamed by Penny for making fun of how ignorant her boyfriend is about science and math and such.
You know, for a group of guys who claim they spent most of their lives being bullied, you can be real jerks. Shame on all of you.
Shame on them for wanting to have their moment in the sun, I guess. And speaking of The Big Bang Theory, another tired bullying storyline is that bully victims are too hung up on the past, as seen in the aforementioned show and the movie You Again. They're told by their bullies that all that stuff happened a long time ago, and that they should just get over it already instead of trying to demand an apology. And it's like, of course bullying is something that's going to have a lifelong impact on someone, but rather than that being seen as a logical consequence of peer-on-peer abuse, it's seen as a rite of passage and part of growing up. However, Marnie does get her apology, but of course not without first being framed as just as bad as her ex-bully Joanna. Leonard gets an apology, but it's immediately retconned because the bully, who also plays Sheldon's dad in Young Sheldon, doesn't remember saying sorry because he was drunk and thus goes back to being a bully. But it should be said that not all bully victims can be painted with the same brush. For example, Snape is way too hung up on the past and shouldn't take whatever's bothering him out on children. He doesn't deserve our sympathy and shouldn't have been redeemed. Not to mention that in real life there were definitely kids who were outsiders but also held horrible beliefs who also happened to hang out with the genuinely nice ostracized kids simply because they both had the same niche interests and quiet demeanor. And they just kind of hung out together even if their politics were totally different because they were part of the same fandom, and that's just how school is sometimes. This sort of phenomenon has been explored in a few videos about the brony fandom specifically, but it exists in other fandoms as well. It's weird looking back now, knowing how some of those kids grew up to be MAGA supporters and others turned out to be not that, but were lumped together simply because they had nowhere else to go. But it should also be said that this sort of dynamic happens in all friend groups and cliques, not just the loser or nerdy ones, but the outsiders are the ones who get the most negative attention because they deviate the most from the norm, so they're more likely to be seen as a monolith and not as a diverse group of people. In the end, I'm not here to say that all bully victims are perfect angels and all bullies are pure evil and totally not worth an ounce of our sympathy, but rather people are complicated, and sometimes hurt people hurt people. And in more recent times, bullying has been depicted with more nuance. Netflix's 2022 movie Do Revenge is a great example of this. The film actually shows how society and the school system itself helps uplift bullies at the expense of others, specifically marginalized individuals. It also doesn't paint either character as right or wrong, and shows the motivations behind why some bully victims become bullies, and how they have to own up to that in order for themselves and their victims to heal. For example, Drea becomes a bully because she sees it as her only defense from being labeled a poor scholarship student and turned into a bullying target herself. Eleanor becomes a bully because, like some bully victims, she seeks revenge, and rather than the narrative calling her out as petty and vindictive, they validate her feelings. Of course she would seek revenge on someone who ruined her life. And in the end, Drea and Eleanor own up to their actions and self-reflect on who they've become. The real bully in the film, Max, constantly foils Drea and Eleanor's revenge plans by twisting the narrative to make him come out as the victim or in the right, and is also protected by the school and by his privilege, commenting on how bullies in the real world are coddled and believed more than the victims who call them out. At the end of the movie, the two are finally able to take him down once and for all, and doing so breaks the school hierarchy up for the better. So unlike Do Revenge, older 2000 sitcoms had a different view of bullying, mainly that bullying is part of being a kid and a rite of passage, if you will. There was a boys will be boys attitude when it came to bullying, both with boy on boy bullying and boy on girl bullying. He's bullying her because he likes her is a common thread in older media. Malcolm in the Middle even has an episode where Malcolm throws a brick through his crush's window and his mom defends it because that's how they are at this age. Bullying in Girl World was handled with a bit more nuance as seen with the popularity of Mean Girls, but when it comes to boys, dealing with bullying is just a part of life, and in fact, standing up to your bully is a big no-no because then it could lead to even more chaos apparently. Everybody Hates Chris doubles down on this even more because it's not just trying to appeal to its contemporary 2000s audience, but also is making a statement about what life was like back in the 1980s, where talking openly about familial and child issues with nuance was still pretty rare. Like I mentioned before in both Malcolm in the Middle and Everybody Hates Chris, there's this message about how if you stand up to your bully, it'll actually make life for everyone worse. So let's break down the episodes, and let's start with Malcolm in the Middle, as that predates Everybody Hates Chris by 4 years. In the 10th episode of Season 2 of Malcolm in the Middle, Reese quits being the school bully after losing to a girl during a wrestling match. Malcolm is at first happy about this, but soon realizes that since Reese isn't the head bully anymore, it's open season on him and all his friends, as the only reason he and his friends weren't being bullied was because Reese dubbed them off limits. Reese decides to become a bully again and re-establish social order after one of the mini-bullies hurts Stevie, Malcolm's black and disabled friend.
I'm immune! Hey, Stevie's off limits. He used to be.
Stevie is off limits when Reese is in charge because of his disability, showing Reese as a benevolent bully or leader.
You're saying my being a bully's a good thing? Yes, you're our only hope.
In fact, earlier in the series, Malcolm is able to dodge a bully by making it appear as if the bully hit Stevie, showing how the bully went too far, and thus turning the school against him. At the end of the episode, Reese comes back and takes charge and order is restored. In Season 3, Episode 2 of Everybody Hates Chris, Caruso, the school bully, gets picked on by Bernard Yao and fails to stand up to himself, ruining his reputation and making himself out to be a wimp. Because Caruso stops bullying, it breaks the school's equilibrium, and it's up to Chris to get Caruso to fight Yao again and become the school bully once more. I know that this is supposed to be funny and comedic, like be grateful for what you have because it could be worse. Or isn't it funny, a benevolent bully or a bully with a soft spot? Who would have thought?
Don't you see? The whole school needs you back, administering your unique form of even-handed brutality.
But I just don't get it. Why did these writers and showrunners think that bullying is a necessary evil to growing up? Why did they think that not having a bully would break down the social order, that bullies are necessary to the school ecosystem, when they're clearly not? It's just such a weird take on bullying that I just couldn't stop thinking about it. The only reasoning I could think of why someone might have this take on bullying is that it's a coping mechanism. Bullying sucks, but without it, where would we be? We would be much worse off, so just put up with it? It's a very weird mentality to be in that I don't think many people would agree with. When we look to kids standing up to their bullies in depictions that predate the 2000s, like in Back to the Future or A Christmas Story, standing up to the bullies is actually a good thing. In Back to the Future, the dad standing up to Biff helps heal the space-time continuum. In A Christmas Story, Ralphie standing up to the bully means that he won't be picked on again. In the 2011 Bully documentary, the kids who decide to beat up their bully or stand up to them with violence say that the bully finally stopped messing with them. Standing up for yourself and taking on a bully is something that we should empower kids to do more often, not tell them to shut up and take it and just accept the hierarchy. I think that these two episodes are just anomalies when it comes to depictions on how to deal with bullies, but let me know if there are other storylines like this because I'm curious to know. So I decided to make this video because I've been watching Malcolm in the Middle for the first time and I find it pretty interesting, especially the bullying plot lines and the dynamic between the mother and the kids. I also like how the parents love each other and get along and don't hate each other for a change. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys had a happy new year. Welcome to 2023. I know my video topics aren't always about trending topics, but I hope you liked this video and maybe it gave you something new to think about. If you have any video suggestions, let me know. I'm currently taking video suggestions, so like I said before, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a short one, but again, I hope you liked it. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.